I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone, and thanks for coming to the October 7th Becker School District regular school board meeting. We will start off with Principal Dave Kraft as a presentation on policy.
All right. Well, thanks for having me tonight. Purpose tonight is just to give you an update on where we are at the high school level with our cell phone policy. So I will reference the documents in front of you in just a bit as we run through this. So just some background for you. I know a number of you have been through the IROD process training, and we went through the training in Becker in November of 2022. And we focused on the problem solving and decision making model. So you're going to hear me reference a number of the elements in the IROD process that guided our decision making around cell phones. The district mission statement, as you know, is developing self-directed learners to thrive in a changing global community. And that was another piece that guided our decision as we modified our policy. As you know, we've been one-to-one for over 10 years. Our elements are different than other districts, as you've heard different districts modify, change their policies. So for us, our students have lockers. I'd be curious if these two could find their lockers. Most of our high school students wouldn't be able to find them because they don't use them on a yearly basis, let alone a daily basis. So backpacks are allowed from class to class. My personal view and perspective on this, along with my leadership style, I'll again reference that. So we know that there's legislation that came through last spring in regards to adopting cell phone policies at each district. I do want you to know, and you're maybe aware of this, the work for us at the high school level started well before this legislation came through. So I would say that the modified policy for us was because we wanted to change things, not because we had to change things. We were told we had to change our policy. This summer, a cell phone toolkit came to all of Minnesota secondary principals that has a lot of the resources that we got to provide some of the feedback for those resources. So there's a document that exists that people can now pull phrases from, they can pull resources from, but we were on the early end of it, so we were actually contributors to this kit. So the reason for the change, for me, the impetus was being in a classroom doing a formal observation of what I would define as one of our best teachers. And I think a number of our students would say she's one of our best teachers and one of our most engaging teachers, and fantastic lesson plan, fantastic connection with students. And just watching her formal observation and the strategies that she needed to utilize, tried to utilize to get kids to engage in class. She used every trick in the book, and it became really challenging for her. So in that moment, I realized that she needed more support. We needed to change things a little bit. The department chairs, soon after that, department chairs, it's a group of about 10 staff members, 10 of our most senior staff members. I asked them, as I was going to my winter conference, if they wanted me to attend a session that was highlighting some changes a different district had gone through in their cell phone policy, and they said absolutely. So they guided me to attend that session to just gather some more information. So I in the IROD process is information. So in February, the staff feedback, we actually met in this space. The media center was not open, and I had two phrases created and ask staff how much they agree with each of those. The first one, in my experience, student cell phones present challenges to my professional responsibilities. Second one, in my professional role, I believe our cell phone policy should be addressed. I didn't know the collective response from our staff. When they lined up in this area, there was such a large number of staff members on this end that it creates challenges that we need to do something about it. So again, the staff feedback was, let's take a look at this. When we met in this space in February, I presented some data to them, ODRs, which stands for Office Discipline Referral. You can see the numbers from year to year. 2021, we had 0 referrals because of cell phones. That's because it was COVID. And then you can see 23, or sorry, in 22, 23, we had 49, which was second place for ODRs. And then 23, 24, we had 44 by the end of last year. When I presented in February, we were at about 17. Our numbers trended up third trimester as we were having this as more of a conversation and more of a focus point. So when we looked at those numbers, we didn't see those as alarming because a number of staff members said, hey, we're managing it every day in our classroom, that if we took time to refer to the office, it would be overwhelming for us to get all this data to the office. So those numbers, when we looked at them, those were not real compelling numbers, but they did not present the challenges that staff said they were facing. Something else we looked at was the number of students who were in school, who were issued an iPad, whose device had not accessed our network. So every time an iPad is open and it accesses our network, we're able to track that. So I got a list of iPads who had not been on our network from our tech team. And there are a number of students who would say in block 1, I forgot it, or I don't have it charged. Block 2, I forgot it, I don't have it charged. Staff member would want them to engage in their work, so they would allow them to take their cell phone out. So that was another thing that we tracked, and I said that's an office managed piece. So Mr. Balloon and I addressed those 17 students. Some of the stories checked out, but there were a number that were just avoiding using the iPad because it's much more exciting to be on your cell phone with fewer restrictions than our iPad. So we presented what our policy was, the point in time. We also talked about what happens if you violate our policy. Also in February, at professional development, I presented a number of different articles. I tried to present contrasting viewpoints on cell phones should be accessible during the day, cell phones should not be accessible during the day. It was challenging to find articles that supported students having access during the day, but we had discussions around those. With that information, so R in the IRAB process is reactions. So got some reactions from student council. In that meeting, student council, what our students said is consistency is the most important part with any policy. Some paraprofessionals met with them. They're often in the back of the classroom and they can notice certain behaviors that teachers in the front of the classroom may not be able to. Office staff, there's some efficiencies that had been created when a kid would forget their tennis uniform or their iPad, and the parent would reach out to their kids saying, I dropped it off in the office. So just wanted to get some perspective from our office staff, if we change things, what that might mean. Our tech department, as I said, got some data from them. Other principals within the district and outside. So coming from the middle school, it's very tight on when students may access their phones. It's really from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. They're in lockers, and they do use lockers at the middle school. And other area principals were talking about the same thing. I remember at my winter conference, I said, "Hey, we're starting this conversation," and a number of them said, "Well, good luck. Let us know how it goes, and then get us the information." So a lot of people were curious at that point. Site-based leadership is a team that meets every month. We have a handful of students on there. We have a handful of parents on there, and we have some staff members. So we ran some things by them. So the reaction, from those groups, what we learned is that communicating things is important. If we change, just be really clear with the communication, be really consistent from first block to second block, from 9th grade to 12th grade. Self-directed learners, as I said, that was an important piece for me because we are talking about some of our seniors who in just months will be out in the workforce at college, and they won't always have someone dictating when they may access their technology, their cell phone. So self-directed, that was important for me because there's a time and place where they may access it. The impacts of social media, some of the articles talked about the impacts and how addictive social media is. The efficiency of some communication, as I said, when people forget their lunch, their backpack, whatever it is. And then coaches, advisors, communicating. We know that a number of them had used, it would communicate with their team on the practice time, the bus time. So just being aware of that. So options, that's the O in IROD. We developed 3 options, and we published those, and I had the staff vote on them. They got 2 votes. They could vote 2 times for the same idea, or they could split their votes. And this is how the voting turned out. 15 votes for a total ban from 8 to 3 o'clock, I'll say. The partial ban, no phones in the classroom, 61 votes. Policy varying by grade had a couple votes. And then status quo, just be more consistent with what we had 7 votes. So that was the indicator to me which pathway to go down, okay, with the 61 votes. So you see in front of you the policy, the single page with more wording, what our policy is this year. And, I have called it a modified policy. Okay, not a new policy, because it has just become tighter on what the policy already was. So you can see the wording that you approved as part of the handbook in June or July, and then the consequences that go with that, which are very similar to what we had before. The posters and consistent messaging. So in all of our student spaces, you'll see those 2 color pages. The one, from bell to bell, there is no cell. And then the other one has kind of the do's and don'ts, times where it is allowed, times where it is not allowed. Part of the messaging, so like the novelty of that phrase, from bell to bell, there is no cell, it really has become catchy. I'd love to take credit for it, but I found it someplace else in August, okay? But students are using it left and right. From bell to bell, there is no cell. Another piece that I picked up from a different district, one of our first days of school, was rather than saying what you can't do, talking about what you can do. So it was Maple Grove High School who had advertised how many minutes per day you may access your phone. And in our schedule, our first bell is at 8 o'clock. Our last bell is at 2:55. So depending, on our schedule, it's about 65 minutes where you may access your phone during the day. So an hour each day, students may access their phone. Staff consistency has been, again, really important as you go from block to block, to English class to tech class. Staff choice and classroom management. We had site-based today, and I asked the students there how their teachers are managing the phones in their space, And we did order, may have it on the next, I have it right at the bottom. We ordered the cell phone pouches, the holders, the calculator holders that may go on the wall. We ordered lots of them, and we returned lots of them. Okay, because teachers found different ways of managing it. For many of them, it's just I don't want to see it. Keep it in your backpack, keep it in your pocket. Some will say if you're going to use the restroom, set it on my desk or set it in that pouch. Inquire. Gretchen Bordson has so many people that she does use those pouches more consistently. So the classroom management piece, how it looks in their space, we just gave the liberty to the teachers because they know how their space works. So the impact, increased engagement. I remember walking by classrooms the first day and we had advisory. And last year I would have seen students on their phones. This year they were talking to each other. And that's what staff members are saying too. When they plan an activity, there's just more communication between students and from student to teacher. So it's maybe noisier in the classroom, but it's a good noisy. Time on task has increased. So some teachers in the past would allow students to access their phone if they're done with their homework. So as you can imagine, some students would rush through their work just to get the extra time on their phones. So yeah, now that's not an option. As of Thursday, we're at 13 ODRs. So an ODR happens when a teacher has addressed it in their classroom, okay? And then a student has violated it again. Okay, so we have 13 of those, and no one has gotten past the first offense that you see on the document on the policy. And I've been impressed. We haven't had the power struggle either that, hey, I'm not going to give up my phone. It's my phone. You can't take it. So students have been really understanding with the shift in policy. Efficiency of parent drop-off. When somebody drops something off in the office, Joan will ask, oh, did you connect with your kid? Yep, it's all good. So students are still able to access those messages between class or a breakfast break. So we've seen no impact, no increase in the work for our office staff. I was curious what between class would look like because you can access your phone between classes. I thought some kids might get a little extra bonus time. I'm going to be on my phone a little bit longer before I get to science class. And visually, I haven't collected the data on this, but visually, I don't see any more students in the hallway than last year as class begins. We have seen a reduction in the number of students just by chance gathering in the hallway or gathering in the bathroom at the same time because they don't have that way of communicating, hey, we're going to meet up at 9:15 in the bathroom in the hallway. Two areas of awareness that we're just more watchful and mindful of. We've operated a subless classroom since I've been here. We've had some more issues with that. We operated out of our senior commons area. So if we need to change our policy or use have the students turn their phones in there. So we haven't changed anything yet. We're just watching that. And then on the staff side, now by week 5, 6, we know the frequent flyers, the kids that are asking to use the restroom pretty often, and some of them it's because they want to check their phones. So I shared that with staff on Friday as well. So district mission statement, again, developing self-directed learners to thrive in a changing global community. By us shifting things, we still give some student autonomy with it, but really the focus in the classroom is on the curriculum and minimizing the distractions with the cell phones. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions there may be.
Yes, Dave, I just had one question. On the teachers may designate locations for cell phone placement during the instructional time. So with that rule, are we saying that the phones don't have to be in a locker during the day for all? Is it just the high school or is that all schools across campus?
Yeah, that's for the high school. So they're just not to be seeing, during class, not to be accessed during class. So I would say the most common place is in their pocket, in their backpack, very few keep them in their locker because again, they don't use their lockers. So,
But I
and-
heard that there's not, wouldn't be enough time. I always hear there's never enough time to run back to your locker anyways, if you need to before
Yeah.
class, so.
yeah, and if we would have shifted that they have to be in your locker, then we're creating some different issues. You know, then we're creating more people congregating at their lockers. We're creating more time, as you said,
Tardies.
and that's going to impact people being on time for class.
And then just last question on this, we allow teachers to designate those locations. Is there only those options right now? Like more options won't arise for them to place their phone somewhere else, right? It's in their bag, on these caddies, in their pocket, you know, that's it. We don't want to see them in
Yeah,
class.
yeah, I haven't heard any other demand, any other questions. And some of the people who started using the caddies have gone away from them. You know, so we keep a handful more in the office, but we've had more returned now than we've been issuing them.
They just can't leave the classroom with their phone, right?
But well, so that's a classroom management piece where some teachers will say, hey, if you're going to use the restroom, put the phone on the desk or in the caddy. Not everyone has done that. So we're just watchful of that, you know, if we need to make a shift with that practice, that if you're leaving the classroom, they should set their phone someplace.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions?
Yeah, have you figured out how you're gonna track the impact of this is from the student's perspective, or have you got any feedback from students on how they feel about it?
Yeah, so at site-based today, there are 3 students present. We just asked them how it felt. Like, we're getting used to it, you know. So like on the student side, we've been really impressed because we thought there might be more of a battle, especially grades 10 through 12. Coming up from 9th grade, they're used to it, right? You know, like this is bonus time. What I get, you know, the phone for an hour during the day. I got it 0 minutes in 8th grade. So grades 10 through 12, it's definitely a shift, but I think some of them appreciate that, oh, it's not even a choice, you know, for me. So I'm not tempted because I can't. So, yeah, you hear, you know, some grumbling with, yeah, bell to bell, there is no cell, but students have been really understanding and I'd say very compliant with it.
Yeah, I was just curious if you had any like positive feedback. I mean, like some students appreciating the fact that the distraction isn't there, or other students aren't using the phone and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think we get both, you know, that, you know, they appreciate it, or, you know, they can't be tempted to be on it. You know, I am curious, I was talking to some staff members today where, you know, students engaging in work more, or like advisory, if they have an intervention day where it's their time to work on things. The past might be I'm going to be on my phone, but now they can't. So, okay, I might as well prepare for my biology test, or I might as well get my math test done. So I hope it has some of those impacts, which are tough to measure. But if they have more time to engage in their work, you'd think grades would increase, understanding would increase.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. Brings us to item number 2, reports, and we will start with student reports.
Yeah, so the activities past month have been doing really good. Sports have either started sections, or in the next 2 weeks or so are going to start sections. But to kind of start us off, in the past month, the boys cross country team has run in 5 meets, including their home meet, where they ran a fundraiser to donate to local charities like Dylan's Hope and Firefighters for Healing. The girls cross country season has done very well so far, and they have been adjusting to a new, very young group of girls and a new head coach. At the home meet, they had 9 girls get their best run of the season as of yet. The girls tennis team started the second round of sections on Thursday in Annandale. Lauren Kroll and Ava Duncombe made it through the first round in singles, and there were 3 doubles pairs that made it through the first round as well. Girls soccer has been very eventful over the past month. Within 2 weeks, they had a total of 8 games. Some of their goals for this year was to have a better record than last year and to beat Monticello and Big Lake. They reached their goal when they beat Big Lake 2-0 and Monticello 2-1. They also have a winning record for this season. Student Council is working on wrapping things up after homecoming and is shifting focus towards Halloween. September was a very busy month for the fall musical, which is Seussical the Musical. So far, drama mostly has been busy finishing music rehearsals and finishing the blocking for the scenes. The tech crew has also been very busy with building all the sets and props. A few new members have joined GSA this year and made multiple new friends. Many said they love sharing their experiences and being able to use the community as a resource to solve problems. The girls swim and dive team is currently 6-1 with their regular season dual meets. They also had an invitational they went to in Malacca, where they got 3rd out of the 6 teams there. Football played Hill Murray at home and won 51-0. That was Coach Lundine's 400th win. They won against Providence 13-9 week 2, even though they lost their lead RB Owen Angel. Strong defense helped them overcome Holy Angels 14-0. Homecoming was a breeze, beating Wilmer 48-6. They then beat Hutchinson 49-6, won the rivalry match this past week and Rocori 30-14. That was the game of the week considering they lost to Rocori last year. This year with their new coach, Katie Uten-Bogard, the volleyball program has grown to be much stronger across the board. They have an overall record of 6-13 and a conference record of 4-2, leaving them in 5th place for their conference. The boys soccer season is coming to an end and the Becker boys soccer team is going into sections with a positive attitude. Yearbook has been hard at work getting the pages done for their first deadline. They also have been to many sporting events taking pictures of both the players and the student fans. They have also welcomed many new faces to the team. NHS is wrapping up their first month of the school year. Some individual service projects that have taken place so far include a Becker Spirit Wear clothing drive and a Humane Society item drive.
In the upcoming month, the boys cross country team will be working on wrapping up the season and looking towards their conference and sections meet and hopefully state. Girls cross country will be starting conferences and sections soon with hopes to make it to state. Girls soccer has sections and will play Monticello at home on the turf on Tuesday, October 8th, tomorrow. They hope that they can make it far in sections. For Halloween, Student Council and NHS are going to run a haunted house, so planning that starts this week. They are also trying to come up with new ideas for fundraisers and events to fill time between Halloween and Christmas. For the next month, DECA will be focused on preparing for competitions and working on opening the concessions trailer at local high school events. Drama will continue to rehearse to prepare for the upcoming musical. Girls swim and dive have one regular season meet left on October 8th at home against Monticello. From there, they will attend True Team at Becker on October 12th and should get a glimpse at what the competition for sections will look like. Upcoming games for football are home this Friday against Big Lake and then Wednesday following the home game against Chisago Lakes, and then playoffs. Volleyball has 3 more games and then it is on to sections. Boys soccer have refined their teamwork and believe they'll go far in sections. Yearbook will continue to work on pages with most of them getting templated. They will start preparing for the winter sports by getting the pages laid out in preparation. NHS has Tackle Cancer this week, where t-shirts are being sold at lunch and teachers for Kiss the Goat have been finalized. They also have kids preparing for Halloween and We Scare Hunger events to start planning and preparing.
Does anybody have any questions?
Want to just introduce yourself real
Oh,
quick
yeah.
too?
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm Charlie Northensfield. I'm a junior this year, so I'll be shadowing Marie.
Yeah, and then I was here last year, Maria Moore.
Welcome. Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies. That's a lot of information. Probably your longest one because next month is
Yeah, kind of the end.
short, yeah,
Section
short,
state.
so thank you so much for that. Moving on, superintendent's report.
The 2025 MSBA Leadership Conference, January 16th, 17th. If you're interested in attending, let Angel know. We'll get you signed up for that conference. 1 day or 2 days. Should be some information in the link here if you want to see what kind of things are out there. I don't think the breakout sessions are posted yet, but they should be soon, hopefully. Carla and I, recently attended the Region 6 MASA meeting. We talked or had a training on artificial intelligence along with our business meeting. We've also asked that person to come and present to our some of our staff members as well at the middle school and high school. So we're working on some times and dates and things for that. To just utilize artificial intelligence, ChatGPT and some of the other programs as well, making sure we're using those efficiently, but also making sure we're staying on top of things ethically and things like that for students, and being able to create assignments for students that you're not really cheating on, because you gotta tie it to your personal experiences and things that Chat GPT has nothing to know about you. The MASA Fall Conference update. We also attended the Fall Conference last week. We were able to network, participate in a number of breakout sessions. The keynote speaker talked about what matters. We had a session on cybersecurity, the Minnesota State High School League, and a couple other ones were there. So there was some good information at that workshop. And then the updated budget summary for our projects is attached. The November school board meeting, just a reminder that November school board meeting dates are November 4th for the regular meeting and November 13th for the special meeting. And one other thing that I'm adding is the student school board members, and Carla will be attending the student school board training session again this year in Shakopee on October 29th. And so they're planning on going to that, and was a really good experience last year. Maria went last year as well, and so it was really good, just kind of networking experience. We talked to, it was Braver Angels, I believe, was the presenter last year, talking about conflict resolution and things like that. Questions?
Okay. Thank you, Jeremy. Moving on to committee reports. We have a track committee, Corey.
All right, get me in my notes. All right, a few things. Impactful, which is an organization that creates films and resources for staff, students, and parents on cyberbullying and anxiety, was approved. Public schools received a grant from Prairie Care to cover the cost of all the rights for the films and resources for parents and students to use, which is kind of a nice thing. From what we've gathered, it's a really meaningful, impactful by the name series that now is able to be shown because of that grant. The counseling office is working on how to deliver that material out and get that information out to the public. On October 23rd, Becker is hosting a speaker named John Pitkin. I believe I said that right. He's basically, hopefully you'll enjoy this, but he is a bodybuilding motivational speaker about overcoming fears. Have you heard about him, or you're just nodding your heads? All right.
He's got the world record. What is it? The fastest time to twist two pans into like a 2-inch frying pans or something like that.
Watch. It's interesting.
2-inch
Some of his
circle.
trying to find some. So hopefully, yeah, it's meaningful and get something out of it.
Even if we don't like him, don't tell him.
Or maybe didn't want to.
Yeah.
Kindness Week, something that's coming up is November 11th. Currently, the Becker Police Department will be passing out donuts again in the morning, one day that week. Not sure the day yet, but they'll be out there. Also, kind of just a message to all of our community about Becker businesses. We're also looking for Becker businesses that would be willing to maybe donate some prizes for that Kindness Week as well. Kind of like the police officers are doing with the donuts. If there's another business or something that has an idea that they'd be willing to engage students and just kind of making it an open, friendly place, that would be great. If anyone is interested or is wondering what they can donate, please reach out to myself, Corey Sanger, or our assistant principal, Mr. Balloon, here at the Becker High School. We can kind of get you some information. So questions on track, but that's coming up. I mean, it's coming up quick, but love to have more participation through that.
Any questions? All right, thanks, Corey. Troy, you have curriculum report?
Sure. So we had a pretty packed meeting here right before this. Covered a lot of different things. Started off with the READ Act 2.0 came out in May. And teachers are fully engaged in letters training right now. And we did get approved curriculum. They modified it the way they were approving them. So, right now we're using Witten Windham that is highly aligned and Wonders that is partially aligned. Last year Wonders wasn't aligned, and they kind of changed the way they grade them now. So that's good for us. The other thing we covered was the standards this school year. We're doing the science standards. And then English is coming up next year, and social studies and math the years following that. There was some stats that I found fairly interesting, where they talked about there just isn't enough time to cover all the standards that we're supposed to cover. They broke it down by the number of hours needed to cover them, and there isn't enough hours in the school year, which leads into the next thing that we're talking about, which is based on that, Kind of like any normal business, we have to prioritize. So they've broken them down. You have priority standards versus supporting standards. Different teachers get together, they group them, and then it just helps them determine what are they going to focus on, because not everything is going to get the same amount of time. Hopefully everything gets adequate time, but some are going to get more than others. And it's the priority versus the supporting that makes that decision. And there's a formal process that they go through to making that decision. Curriculum review, K through 5, thank you. K through 5 math is going to be reviewed. Apparently their curriculum is being discontinued, so they weren't given a strict deadline, but they weren't really told it wasn't going to be discontinued very quickly. So the decision was made that they're going to start a review on that and pick a new curriculum for that. Professional development kind of goes back to what we were just saying before. It's letters. Training is a large part of professional development. And then also that the standards prioritization plays into that also. So that's page 1. The other thing that I noticed here is we've all heard a lot about World's Best Workforce. It now has a new name. It's Comprehensive Achievement and Civic Readiness, new acronym. And they did replace one of the goals. I didn't jot down what the goal was, but they took one away and added a new one. And then we had a interesting presentation on the use of AI in schools. And we have 2 AI programs, Magic School and School AI, that they met with teachers and kind of went through how you can use those in different ways and had a brief demo for that. Did I miss anything, Corey?
No, and just kind of building off of that one, just kind of how they creating a 3-year plan for how we're going to implement AI throughout the building. The only thing I would bring up too is that May READ Act that they brought up, they just said 2.0, just kind of extended the time that teachers have to complete their letters training. It was supposed to be done at the end of this year, which is not possible. So they do move it to July 2026. Just give us a little bit more time. It's a heavy load, so. That's about it. Next meeting is December 2nd.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Ryan, you have a community ed update?
Yes, so I met with Michelle Peacock on 24th, I believe it was. And we just again reviewed her budget and the steps that she's trying to make to raise more funds, maybe bring more kids in the daycare program now that we have more space. Raising fees, different things. She was gonna try to get me some stuff, and I think she's been a little bit busy because she just announced her retirement on January 1st. So kind of big news, exciting for her. So she's obviously got a lot going on and preparing to take the next journey in her life. So that's pretty exciting for her. She's been here quite a while and done a good job. So I'm happy for her in her future.
Right. Any questions for Ryan? All right, thank you, Ryan. And Pete, you have a policy update?
Yes, so policy committee met Wednesday, September 25th. And again, Superintendent Schmidt's done a great job getting all these continuous legislative updates into our policies. We just discussed a number of them, and a lot of it was just kind of updating terminology and words for the most part. Going through them, policy 505, distribution of non-school sponsored materials. Again, that was under review. Student discipline, policy 506, policy 523, service animals. We kind of adopted MSBA's latest version. So that is actually on for our first reading today. So I would recommend everyone taking a look at that and asking questions on that. Policy 524 in internet technology and cell phones, again, adopt MSBA's latest version. Policy 535 dealt with latex, latex free use. 536 special dietary needs. Policy 704 development and maintenance of inventory on fixed assets and fixed asset accounting system. And again, 722 was under review as well.
Any questions for Pete? All right, thank you so much. Are there any other committee reports out there? All right. Moves us on to item number 3. Just a recap of last month, we had closed board meeting to evaluate performance of Dr. Schmidt, I guess it is, huh? I would just like to read that Becker School Board has reviewed Mr. Schmidt's performance and are pleased to report a positive work review for last year, and we look forward to the year ahead. So that's the outcome of last month's closed session. So it moves us on to item number 4, consent agenda.
Move that we accept.
I'll second.
We have a motion to accept consent agenda, seconded. Do we have any discussions or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Takes us to item number 5, the gifts.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion to accept gifts as listed before us. Any questions or discussions on that?
Healthy list, thank you.
It's Corey's turn.
So, all right,
Yeah, just big shout out to Dylan's Hope again. You know, those are some really big checks.
yeah, that's impressive.
Thank you.
So it's amazing month after month to come to this table and have gifts after gifts after gifts. So very impressed with the community we live in. All right, all those in favor to accept the gifts as listed as written, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to item number 6, Minnesota State High School League, and Jeremy, I think you're gonna speak to that.
Sure, yeah. Minnesota State High School, I had sent some information out in one of my updates about a vote that's upcoming from the Minnesota State High School League to add the 9th grade into their jurisdiction. And then there was some language changes, so it's actually 2 votes, but the language changes were just minor language changes, so they don't affect a whole lot. But the 9th grade moving into the high school jurisdiction for State High School League. What that does is it puts the same rules under the 9th graders as the 10th through 12th grade, which many people don't even realize that they were separate, I guess, at this time. But put the same rules in place for coaches and the like as 10th through 12th grade for 9th graders. But the biggest thing that they're recommending it for, and MASA and some other organizations have also jumped on board for approval with it, is the catastrophic insurance for 9th graders. So if a 9th grader is on JV or varsity, they are covered with catastrophic insurance. But if they're on 9th grade on a C team, they are not covered with the catastrophic insurance. So if our C team bus is going somewhere and there's an accident, we have our liability insurance, but also the MSHSL would now have their coverage for going to an event, or if something were to happen at an event to a 9th grader on a 9th grade team that wasn't previously covered, it would be covered moving forward. And there is an option right now for people, I think, to buy into that individually. I don't know if anyone does from our district, or any district for that matter. It's very rare, I would say. But this would cover 9th grade in that grouping as well. So schools have voted. I think they've given it kind of on the person that votes. Aaron is the school board rep for Minnesota State High School League from our district to be the voting member. I thought I'd bring it to the table to see if there was any input or questions or anything, or have the entire board direct how we would like Aaron to vote on that. I thought it'd be more controversial, but as I more and more looked into it further, it seems to be a pretty simple decision, I would guess. So I would recommend telling Aaron to vote in favor of adding 9th grade. One of the other things I guess that's important to say is there are 600 and change school districts in Minnesota who have to vote on this, and 75% of them have to vote, and 66% of those have to vote to approve it to change it, because it is a constitutional amendment. What that does is it gives you 50% plus 1. So it's a majority vote, but the 600 districts, include homeschools, private schools, public schools. And so I don't know how many of the homeschools will vote, but they need to get a 300 and something votes in favor to pass something like this because it is a constitutional change.
It's not a slam dunk done deal.
No, we did the same thing for adding a superintendent to the state high school league a few years ago, and it failed the first time only because there were not enough votes. And then the second time it didn't pass, so. Yeah, I think the first day, there were 230 votes or something like that already cast. Last Friday was when it opened and it closed on October 16th, I want to say, or 15th. Or 18th, somewhere in the middle of October.
Is there any, I know, I think we asked, is there any conversation about, did you pay per pupil to be a part of the high school league? Have they come out with a blanket amount yet, or has that been stated, since you're adding ninth grade, I mean. It's 10 kids, but, I mean, for like Becker, it'd be 200 kids or something like that, right?
Yeah, and I participated in an online chat, and then I went to the Minnesota State High School thing, like I said in my report. They are saying that the increase for the ninth grade is going to be about $20,000 to $30,000 for that liability insurance. So that will get distributed among the districts, and right now they're paying about $400,000 for liability, so it would be a 8% increase or something like that for school districts. The Minnesota State High School League also is, what they're telling us, and this is true because we've gotten money back, is that their fees right now are the lowest they've ever been for school districts as well. And if you remember a year or two ago, they gave money back to schools, and we do get grants from them as well for AEDs, the refereeing course at the high school or stuff related to that. So the rates will increase to include that, but it shouldn't be a lot when you disperse it between all the member schools, and it is per pupil.
Is there savings then coming off of what would have been paid for the ninth grade sports? On a separate level basis like it has been done, or?
No, I don't
Does that
think the
make sense?
district's liability will change at all. We'll still have, they'll have double coverage if it was something like a bus accident or something like that.
Would the financial reason be one of the main reasonings why schools would wanna make this change, do you think? Is the added cost?
It could be, but if you're dispersing that between all the groups to include your ninth graders, so that there is, I mean, it's that catastrophic insurance, but so I don't know. I think last year there were 3 or 4 major incidents that were covered under that for ninth graders that were happened to be on a JV or varsity team, but had they been on ninth grade with those incidents, then they're not covered. And so it might be worth it. It's an insurance policy essentially for our ninth grade students if we pay that little bit extra for them.
Gotcha, because they don't have a policy
They don't.
right now,
No.
okay.
Have you heard any pushback on it? I mean, the different events you went to, is it?
No, but I went to the
Say we
state high
don't
school
like it?
league and I went to MASA, and both of them are in favor of it. So
Sure.
it's Eric Martins was the presenter at the state high school league presentation. He just said any of the negatives he's been able to combat. So one of the negatives is ninth grade coaches. A lot of times right now, when the season ends or out of season, that's not the summertime when it's open period for coaching, the ninth grade coaches can coach. Let's say football, for example, can coach the winter league or spring league in football because they don't have to follow the same rules as the 10th through 12th grade coaches. Now they would not be able to do that if this vote were to go through. Same thing with all activities, so they would have to follow that same process. So
And I-
coaches would have less. They can't practice on Sundays. Ninth grade teams can practice on Sundays if they wanted to right now. I don't know how many do, but they wouldn't be able to do that because state high school league rules say you can't do that for 10th through 12th grade, and then they would add ninth grade into that.
I think a lot has changed too, because before there wasn't a lot of 7th or 6th or 7th graders playing varsity sports, right? And those numbers I would assume are going up, so even an 8th grader that plays varsity would still be covered under.
They're
the
covered. Yep.
current rules, so.
Yep. That's why it's hard to calculate the cost, because anyone that plays JV or varsity is covered. So they're trying to guess how many ninth graders are only playing ninth grade sports and activities.
I know I asked you this in email, and have you heard anything more about like that ninth grade, like state tournaments and things that are held? Are they still gonna have those, or will those become under jeopardy, or have they decided?
The state high school league doesn't have jurisdiction over those. However, the athletes, one of the other rule changes that would be in effect is the number of competitions you can have. If you're only in ninth grade. Now, I don't know who goes to all those ninth grade tournaments and things, if they're JV and varsity players. I know when I was a head coach, we had a ninth grade tournament in our conference, and I happened to bring my JV starter that played ninth. He was a ninth grader, but he was a JV starter, and we put him on the ninth grade team, and he was really good in the tournament. But he shouldn't have been able. I mean, he had to monitor how many quarters he was playing. Now ninth graders are going to be in that same grouping, so it matches, games, halves, those types of things will be.
Like football, you go like 6 quarters a week. Now ninth grade would fall into that.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see from wrestling, it actually might help a little bit to avoid the same circumstance that you just said. If you got a ninth grader that's wrestling varsity, he's probably not going to want to go wrestle the ninth grade tournament, which should open up a spot for somebody else.
For somebody else, but yeah.
So, okay, interesting.
I called the state high school league on that question, and they said we don't have jurisdiction over that. However, we would have jurisdiction over school sports, and I think they had some other issues with the ninth grade state wrestling tournament and things, but I don't know what those were.
Okay.
So we're looking for a motion on a directive on how Becker School Board should vote on this.
Yeah, unless you want me or Aaron just to vote on it, because we can vote, but I think it's easier since we're all here, we're all well informed now.
Yeah.
Endorse Aaron to vote yes. Make a motion to have Aaron Jarrett vote yes for the Minnesota State High School League adoption.
I will second it.
Any further questions or discussions? All right, we have a motion to direct myself to vote yes on the Minnesota State High School League adoption of ninth grade. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to item number 7, compensatory funding resolution. Want to speak to that?
Yeah, maybe Kevin will chime in too, but there are a couple school districts, I talked about this last month, and they're working on this for the delegate assembly, but a couple schools already have this resolution in place that they've submitted to MSBA, but I would recommend us getting on the same board. It's continue to hold harmless compensatory funding for school districts for at least 2 more years to extend the current rate. So compensatory funding comes to us from free and reduced lunch numbers is a big part of that. And so now we have direct certification. So if you don't fill out the paperwork for free and reduced, you can get direct certified based on if you are a family that utilizes SNAP or WIC or those types of government programs. That has increased our numbers considerably, and it also increases our compensatory funding. If they were to go back to the free and reduced lunch, it would lower it because we don't get people filling out the forms, and same with other districts. If they go just to direct cert, some schools that have high free and reduced lunches would lose out some funding in that. But we would go, what was the number, Kevin, 360,000?
If they went to free and reduced again, we were gonna lose like another 100,000.
100,000. Right. So I mean,
And from where the level it is right now, they increased it, during COVID, and they kept it through 25, 26. But once it goes to direct certification, which is 26, 27, we're gonna actually lose about 400,000. So that's why we're saying in this resolution to at least extend it another 2 years past 25, 26. Give districts time to at least mull it over how we're gonna take that drop in revenue. Or the legislator keep it where it's at. But at least do it for another 2 years past when it's supposed to be done.
and the money, like I said, is from free and reduced, those types of families, the poorer families, and so it should be directed toward that. So we help use it to use lower class sizes and do different things like that. But 400,000 is a big impact for us. There are schools with 500 or 600 kids in their entire district that are losing $400,000 or $500,000, and whether they recognize it or not, with this change in some cases.
So you want a motion?
Yeah,
to approve that?
Motion that we adopt the compensatory funding resolution.
I'll second.
Any further questions or discussions? All those in favor of the motion to accept the compensatory funding resolution, say aye. All opposed. Motion carries, brings us on to item number 8, policy review. Again, Pete spoke to those. All the reviews they've done, you have all the policies there. Along with their red lines. Jeremy, you want to speak to that at all?
Pete did a good job of that. I mean, it's also explained on here, so 504, 505, 506. Just keeping the same version with MSBA's changes. And then 523 is the service animal one, we renumber that to 535. And then 524 is a cell phone, Mr. Kraft had talked about, so they added cell phone, that internet technology and cell phone use. 535 and 536 are just renumbering, so no changes to those ones, just getting those numbers open so we can match MSBA's numbering. And then 704 a review, and then 722 is an annual review policy.
I'll make a motion that we accept.
I'll second.
Any further discussions or questions on the policies written for us? All those in favor to accept policies as written in item number 8 tonight, say aye. Aye. All opposed. Motion carries. That brings us to item number 9. It's the first reading. Of the proposed policy, the new number 536, animals in the school. I don't know, you want to speak to that, Pete, or Jeremy?
Yeah, so this is non-service animals in school therapy, animals, dogs typically. So having a policy in place for that to have animals in the schools. This is just a first reading, but we sent this on to our legal team for advice as well and feedback on that. So making sure we're not putting ourselves at a liability with bites or safety and things like that.
Is this a MSBA policy?
MSBA does not have a policy on animals in schools other than the service animal one. Some other schools do, some for horses, miniature horses and things like that in school. We've had, well, earlier in the year when we had our staff member pass away, we brought a dog in, therapy animal. So we've got other programs that some of you are familiar with as well that have talk about animals in school for soothing anxiety and things like that. So this would help eliminate some liability.
And this again is not animals in classrooms during educational periods. This is separate times and open areas that kids can
Yeah, it doesn't mean like
take advantage of.
Charlie or
Right.
Maria can just bring their
Right.
cat in with them to walk around with.
Right.
Bird on your shoulder.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's not for that.
No bearded dragons, right, snakes or anything in the backpacks.
All right. So read through that. If you have any questions or concerns or changes, back to Jeremy about it. So it'll come up to next month's board meeting for the second reading. So any other questions on that one? Okay, brings us to item number 10, meeting adjourned. Thank you all for coming.